Manny Ramirez was beloved by Boston fans. He spent 7.5 fantastic seasons there and was as much a part of the city as anything. But on July 31st, 2008, Manny was traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And there was immediately a goofy Manny dilemma. When Manny touched down in Southern California, he decided that he wanted to stop wearing number 24. The Dodgers having that number retired probably contributed too. He apparently wanted 34 at first, which was available even if it was taken by a Dodgers fan favorite of years past, and sort of unofficially retired. Then it quickly became that he wanted 66 as his number. No reason as for why. Then, in a matter of minutes, he changed his mind to 99 as his number of choice, which ended up being the number he'd wear as a Dodger. What did Manny have to say for all this? I don't know why I have this number, I wanted 34.
I don't know why they give me 99, I wanted a 34, but I guess it's not available.
I'm on another level, activist dabby got lean on my bezel, scratching the rap up to candy paint, just spent a ham on a Tesla cause I'm at a higher elevation.
Once his uniform number was settled, Manny took the field as a Dodger, and he was unreal. You could use any random stat from his first 2 months with the Dodgers to show how good he was, but there's something even more telling. Manny Ramirez finished 4th in the NL MVP voting in 2008, so that only counts his time with the Dodgers and pretends his time with the Red Sox didn't happen. Manny only played 53 games with the Dodgers that year, and he was up there in the voting with all the guys who raked all season. He posted a B-WAR of 3.5 with the Dodgers in 2008, which helped them squeak past Arizona and win the division. WAR is a stat that tries to see how many games a team would win with someone as opposed to a replacement level player instead. So that really made the difference as to why they won the division. Off the field, he was also beloved in LA. The nickname Manny Wood was born as he carried the Dodgers into the playoffs at the end of the year. This for a 36-year-old who had never played in the National League before, moving to one of the biggest markets in the world, made for a perfect storm and arguably the best stretch of his career. Once the playoffs started, Manny somehow got even better. Thanks in large part to Manny, the Dodgers swept the Cubs, a team favored to go to the World Series that postseason. The Dodgers would lose to the eventual champion Phillies in 5 games the next round, but Manny did everything in his power to keep the Dodgers alive. In the 2008 playoffs, Manny hit .520 with 4 homers, 10 RBIs, and 11 walks, and got on base more than 65% of the time. That's really good. After the series, Manny's big contract from 2001 was over. He was a free agent again. When asked about how much money he should make in his new contract, Manny said, "Gas is up, and so am I." Was it really though? Every college business student in America knows that there was a huge financial crisis in 2008, so joke was in poor taste, Manny. Spring training kicked off in 2009 with Manny still a free agent. As teams began to break camp, Manny was still on his couch. Until finally, he agreed to a 2-year, $45 million deal to return to the Dodgers.
I'm back!
And he crushed the ball when he came back. On May 7th, he was batting .349 with 6 dingers and 28 ribbies, meaning he was still one of the best middle-of-the-order bats you could have in your lineup. Until that day, he was kicked out of the lineup. Manny would be suspended 50 games for violating MLB's policy on drug testing. It later came out that the drug Manny tested positive for was a women's fertility drug. It's sometimes used in connection with steroids. Manny said that he had accidentally been prescribed this drug, or that he and his doctor didn't know it was banned, but most people didn't buy it. But listen to this. Manny, if you're watching, this is not an insult. Manny is the type of guy who could realistically have bought some random drug, possibly over the counter, and had no idea what it does. It's also plausible, knowing what we know about Manny, that he straight up bought the wrong stuff. Or he could have just did it as a goof, considering he would spike his teammates' drinks with Viagra to mess with them while he was in Boston. It's embarrassing no matter how you spin it, but can we really prove malicious intent? It's one thing if he took this drug with cheating in mind, but the whole situation is clouded in mystery. Doubt exists when you take what Manny's really like into account. We don't really know the truth about this situation, but either way, it doesn't look good. One way or another, this really got to Manny. When he came back, his numbers dipped a little, even though he still finished with great totals, especially for his age. The weirdest part of Manny's return, though, was that his 2009 postseason went almost exactly the same way as his 2008. The Dodgers swept their first opponent and then lost to the Phillies in 5 games. Again. In Game 1 of the NLCS, Manny hit his 29th career playoff home run. That would be the very last of his career, and that total is by far the most ever. In 2010, Manny would return to Fenway Park for the first time since leaving Boston, and if you had any doubt Manny was still a fan favorite, listen to this.
Well, there are a lot of folks who are giving him a standing ovation. One of the signs said about 2004, "Thank you, Manny." So he's being welcomed back.
Later in the series, he gave them one more thing to cheer about. Man, how does he always do this sort of thing? Manny hit well again for the Dodgers in 2010, but he got bit really hard by the injury bug. Even though he was hitting .311 with a .405 OBP, he lost his starting job with the Dodgers after coming back from his third time on the DL. The Dodgers would put Manny on waivers towards the end of 2010, and he'd be claimed by a team hoping to add a big bat to their lineup down the stretch, hoping to make a run. Manny Ramirez would rejoin the American League and play for the Sox, just not the ones he played for the first time. The White Sox would be Manny's team at the end of 2010.
That thing's green! Green!
A very forgotten stop in his career. He was alright in his first month with the team, but they didn't make the playoffs. Almost as quickly as he'd come into Chicago, he would go. In January of 2011, Manny would sign a one-year deal with the Tampa Bay Rays. His old pal Johnny Damon would join him there. And Manny would look good in spring training for the Rays. To some people, suspiciously good. When the regular season started, he wasn't as good. He had just one hit in his first 17 at-bats in 2011. On April 6th, Manny would fly out to short right field against the Angels. No one knew it at the time, but that would be his very last at-bat in the major leagues. Manny failed another drug test and would face a 100-game suspension as punishment. Rather than take the suspension, Manny decided to retire. You remember how hard Manny took getting suspended the first time? Imagine the shame of the second. But this time, we still don't know what the drug in question was. Usually when someone gets popped, we know what specifically it was for, but in this case it still hasn't been confirmed. Whatever happened, Manny took it hard. He needed to clear his head and went into exile from the game he loved, knowing his reputation would probably never be the same. 2 screw-ups is bad, but there are still a lot of questions surrounding what really happened. We don't really know 100% if Manny cheated per se, but this incident really hurt his image and sent him to a dark place for a little while. He was falling apart over his breakup with the game he loved. Manny soon got the itch to come back to baseball though, wanting to play in the Dominican Winter League. He didn't realize that the Dominican Winter League is affiliated with Major League Baseball and couldn't do that though. Manny was really hungry to redeem himself and make things right with baseball though, and the Players Association helped talk his suspension down to 50 games instead of 100. In early 2012, the Oakland A's gave him a shot, giving him a minor league deal. He would play well for a little in the minor leagues after his suspension was up. He was hitting over 300 in AAA, but something must not have felt right. He requested that the A's release him after 17 minor league games. He would go on to speak very highly of the A's for how they treated him, but it looked like he wouldn't have a spot in the big leagues with them. Or in other words, he didn't see a real chance to make it back and earn redemption. So you know that one really funny home run call in MLB The Show?
And just like the ex-girlfriend who ain't coming back, that one is gone!
That's taken from a real-life home run call from Taiwan in 2013. You know who hit that home run in Taiwan? Manny Ramirez. After briefly getting his feet wet in the DR during that offseason, Manny Ramirez would take his talents to Taiwan on his comeback journey, and he was immediately welcomed by the fans with a picture of Johnny Cueto. History lesson: this is Johnny Cueto. That is Manny Ramirez. Manny crushed all the pitching Taiwan had to offer as a 41-year-old man, but he got homesick and decided to part ways with his team to be closer to his family in New York. Johnny Cueto actually pitched in New York less than a month before, so maybe he wanted to breathe the same air as his supposed lookalike. A couple weeks later, he found himself playing for the Texas Rangers AAA team. Look at that, they ended up getting him after all that A-Rod stuff like 10 years before. In 30 games, Manny's numbers took a bit of a dip, but he wasn't terrible, especially for being 41 years old. But a little over a month after they brought him in, they sent him home. This is a picture of Manny Ramirez playing baseball in 2014. You can't really see the face of his teammate behind him, but Manny made sure to tell us who that was in an Instagram caption. That's Chris Bryant. This Chris Bryant. The Chicago Cubs brought Manny to their AAA team midway through 2014 to be a half-player, half-coach kind of thing. And at 42, he started to show some age. While he wasn't necessarily contributing with the bat as much as he used to, he was able to mentor their minor league hitters. One minor leaguer in particular would end up finding a mentor in Manny. The Cubs had a young, talented prospect waiting in the wings that Manny tutored with his swing. He was also extremely supportive during the tragic death of that player's sister. This player was Javier Baez. Manny Ramirez helped put Javi Baez on a path to making awesome no-look tags and popping out against his brother-in-law in the All-Star game. Manny indirectly helped the Cubs break their curse. This was after he did the same for the Red Sox 12 years before. He'd be a coach in the Cubs organization for parts of 3 seasons, until he got the itch to play a little bit more. He would join an independent team in Japan for the 2017 season. And according to one source, he destroyed this new league. There's nothing on Baseball Reference or anything to confirm this, but yeah. He would leave the team in August to come back to the US to treat a knee injury, and it doesn't appear he ever went back. In April of 2020, Manny said he wanted to play yet again. This time in Taiwan. This is a video of Manny taking some swings in 2020. He is 48 at the time these words are being spoken into a microphone. 48, and he's still not calling it quits. He loves baseball this much. He really wants to redeem himself playing this game. As for his career in the majors, he left the league with 555 home runs and 1,831 RBIs. Top 20 all-time in both. JAWS is a stat that averages a player's career wins above replacement with their 7-year peak wins above replacement to try and rank players at every position. According to JAWS, Manny is the 10th best left fielder in baseball history. His career B-WAR is 69.3, about the same as Tony Gwynn and Tim Raines. Both of those two guys are in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Manny is not. In 2020, Manny received 112 votes to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. It was his 4th year on the ballot, and he's still a ways away from getting in. His support went up, but his fate remains very uncertain. This is a man with a very complicated legacy. At his best, he was one of the greatest hitters in baseball. At his lowest point, there were people who thought he was a cheater. 2 PED suspensions is a huge problem for a lot of Hall of Fame voters, especially when they came at a time where the consequences were laid out in front of everyone. But we can't honestly say we 100% know what happened. This is Manny Ramirez we're talking about. A man who was so quirky, it became what he was most known for. In 2019, he talked about his failed drug tests, and had this to say.
Everybody make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. Everybody make it. But we gotta keep moving, so what else can you do? It was a good thing for me because it made me grow up. I'm in a better place that I ever been, even when I was playing, so I don't regret it because it made me grow up.
He didn't really confirm or deny anything, so we don't really know what the full truth is. It's tough. It's really tough to look at his career with all this in mind. Either the baseball community got this guy all wrong, or the legacy of a generational player has been ruined by cheating. We might never really find out which it is. Regardless, he was one of the most beloved baseball players of his time. He's still loved to this day, and he loves baseball right back. He's been desperately trying to stay in the game and earn redemption for almost a decade, and that shouldn't go unnoticed. Baseball misses Manny, or at the very least a presence like him. While baseball as a sport is conflicted on his legacy, I hope he's able to find the peace and closure it seems he's been seeking for a long time.